You're listening to Ideal Practice, episode number 157. Okay, guys, in the words of today's guest, if you don't have a plan to run your business will run you. So today, we're going to take a deeper look at 3 key areas in your practice where having even a simple system in place can make a huge difference in helping you spend less time spinning around in circles and more time serving your clients. Or for that matter, just getting your life back. Sound good? Yeah, I thought so too. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my 6-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Ideal Practice. This is Wendy Pitts-Reeves, your host, and we have a fun conversation for you today. We're going to be talking a little bit about the strategy side of running your practice, basically what's going to help you run it better with a little more ease, a little more freedom, a little more peace of mind, just by implementing a couple of really simple ideas. Today's guest, I hope you like her as much as I do. She was delightful to talk to. Her name is Ariana Refsdal. Ariana is an aligned, this is a key word, aligned business strategist who helps mission-driven entrepreneurs simplify their systems, optimize their operations, which you may not even know that you have, but you do, and build a business that supports the life they actually want to live. This is so important for us, y'all. When we start a practice, we are so client-centered and so focused on just getting people in the door, getting them served, getting them taken care of, and keeping our income going, that we can really get down into the weeds. And if you're not careful, you can drown that way, honestly, if I can mix my metaphors. And Ariana can help us with that. With a background in virtual support, project management, that's key, and strategic planning, she bridges the gap between your vision for your practice and executing the ideas that are going to make that vision real. And she especially wants to do this for purpose-led founders like you who get kind of stuck in the back end of their business. Ariana believes that your business can be both impactful and easeful. Now, that's kind of a crazy concept. You mean I could run a practice and it not kill me? Yeah, actually you can. And that's something I would like to see happen for you guys. So she's here to help us reclaim some of our time, attract aligned clients, and move forward with clarity and confidence. And I think you're going to see how that works when you hear this conversation. We're going to be talking about the role of systems in general, how to make this whole concept feel simpler and lighter for you. It does not have to be big and heavy and complicated. And Ariana is doing us a favor. She's going to help us identify 3 specific areas where if you're not doing anything else, just start with these. And you'll be amazed at what a difference this just taking a couple of simple steps are going to make in helping everything in your business just feel a little bit better, a little bit lighter, run a little bit smoother. And isn't that a win-win for everybody? Yeah, it is. So I think this is going to be fun. So join me and learn, okay? And without further ado, let's get in to the interview. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. I'm so happy that you're here with me today. You know that, and you've already heard a little bit about our guest, Ariana Refsdal, which is not an easy word for me to say, but I'm proud of myself. I'm practicing. Ariana, come on board. And she's clapping already. Come on board and say hi.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here. Thank you so much for having me on Wendy.
You're very welcome. I'm excited about hanging out with you.
Yeah.
As you know, like we've already had a conversation a few weeks ago and it was already fun. And I know that you've got all kinds of goodies that you're going to share with our audience today. And it's just going to be a great conversation. Guys, we're going to nerd out on you because we're both systems people. So Prepare yourself. That's where we're going to go. So, Ariana, besides the fact that that's a beautiful name, tell everybody a little bit. Like, let's start with, I love this. Where are you? And in the world, because that's one of my favorite questions. And then, who do you serve and how do you serve them?
Yeah. So I am currently living in New Hampshire in the United States. But as of September, end of September, I'm moving to the west coast of Ireland. I'm getting
Ah,
married. So I'm very excited about that. So soon I'm going to be able to say I live in Ireland, which I'm very
oh my
excited about.
gosh. Ah,
Yeah, and I serve mission-driven entrepreneurs. So the way that that translates to me is that these are folks who have a big impact that they know they're meant to make in the world and in their communities and in just, the people that are around them.
yeah.
And most often they are visionaries. They didn't start a business because they wanted to be business owners. They started the business because of the impact they're meant to create. So me,
Hmm.
like you said, we're going to nerd out because of systems. I love the back end of businesses. And so I love being able to come into a spaghetti bowl of systems or lack of systems, just, things kind of held together by prayers and band-aids. And I make it into a streamlined system where people are like, I get to just serve
Uh,
my clients and you are going to make sure that everything else runs well. Like, perfect, wonderful. Here we go.
I love that. I'm picturing a spaghetti bowl of a business. Like that's a great image right off the bat.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very
Everything's
true.
all tangled
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of all there, but we can take it apart. It's gonna be streamlined at some point. It's gonna go back to being regular spaghetti.
I love that. And you made a good point there. People don't start businesses because they want to run a business. Well, not often. I mean, sometimes that's the case, but in our world, in the world of healers and helpers, that's not usually why they do it at all. That's kind of like, okay, if that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do. I just really want to help people. So I get that. Yeah. So I'm curious about this. Do you mind telling me a little, like, I haven't asked you this, I don't think, like why this? How did you get into this? And why this particular focus? What made you, because all businesses could use this kind of help, what made you decide to lean into mission driven entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
Curious. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I started my own business, I did get a degree in psychology when I was in university. Really
Oh,
thought that I was going to be a psychologist for the Navy. I had a pull for,
wow.
really being able to lean in and support people that really needed it.
Huh.
Life kind of started happening and there was other things that kind of came to play. And so I ended up, instead of doing more school, I went to Los Angeles. I had family there that said I could sleep on their couch for a little while as I figured stuff out. And I got into the film and TV industry kind of by accident and
Oh my.
was an assistant payroll accountant. Like, on paper, I had this really great job. I was making good money. I was working in a industry that people were envious of and all that stuff. And I just felt empty. I was like,
Uh,
people are treating this like this is life or death, like this is brain surgery. And at the end of the day, like I was like,
hmm.
I'm not fulfilling my purpose of helping people help people.
Hmm.
And so that it's kind of evolved a little bit from there of, I started my business as a general virtual assistant.
Yeah.
Started before I was really ready. I got a client before I was really ready for it. And I was like,
Don't
here we
we
go.
all? Don't
Yep,
we
yep,
all? We
yep.
start
Gonna
before we're
learn on the
ready.
go.
We get a
Yep.
client before we're ready. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it really just kept evolving into my favorite clients to work with were the ones who were just like, I am so inspired by people and the world around me that I want to create all these offers for people's betterment.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and they just needed help with that. So
Huh.
it's, I've leaned into it over the last 6 years being in business and I love it. It's brings me so much joy to be able to amplify the voice and the vision of these mission driven folks. So it's
That
been
is
fun.
super cool. And talk about a roundabout way to find your place, right?
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
Huh. So you were aiming for you were thinking about psychology, some kind of mental health work in the Navy. Is that where you were headed
Yes.
originally? So
Yeah.
isn't that even there you were already drawn towards something that is very system focused, very structured, very disciplined. What a hoot. Huh.
That's funny. I never actually connected that, but yeah, I think that's a very interesting
I
connection.
love it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And then you go out to for the lack of a better word, Hollywood,
Mhm.
where everything is hyper creative, and I'm sure
Yeah.
also quite intense in lots of different ways. And it doesn't quite sit with you, and so you kind of full circle back to your roots, discipline and help all at the same. I love
Yeah.
that. That's super cool. I get
Yeah.
such a kick out of people's backstories. I don't always ask that, but whenever I do, I'm always glad I do because it's like, oh. Who knew? Yeah, I love that. So,
Yeah.
and virtual assistants, we have talked about that a little bit here before. That is, in fact, that's one of the most popular topics I've ever covered here.
Mhm.
Is how to work with a virtual assistant. You are much, much more than that. I know that. That's where you started. You have, like you said, your business has evolved. That's also cool.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so to get us started, I wanted to ask you, one of the things that you've got on your website is you said that one of the things you want to do is you encourage us to, you said, empower your business through a holistic approach.
Mhm.
So before we get into the nitty gritty stuff, what is that? What is a holistic approach to running a private practice?
Mhm. So that is for
What
me.
do you mean by it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. For me, I approach my clients in a holistic way, and I encourage them to approach their own business in a very holistic way. So that means like everything is as important as the other things. And so, like
Ah.
in a body, your hands are just as important as your feet, and so your systems are just as important as bringing money in.
Mm,
And oftentimes systems are just the like ugly stepchild of the business of like I'll get to that later. That's down the line. I have all these things to do, but when you can view it holistically, everything becomes easier because you're viewing it as one organism, one thing
I
versus
love that.
little like projects. And so when
Mm,
I work with clients, because like you said, I started as a virtual assistant and I've grown so much through the 6 years, I approach things very holistically. I don't come in as I just implement and that's all that I do. I don't come in as I just manage the business, that's all that I do. I come in with I know the strategy and structure. I see the big picture. I know the day-to-day details that need to get done too. So it's a very holistic way of viewing their business, and it helps them view the business in a more holistic sense as well.
what a great way to look at things. So
Mhm.
you're not compartmentalizing your approach to helping somebody get their business on better footing. You're looking, all of it matters. The vision matters, the work, the clinical work, the service matters, and the behind the scenes stuff matters, right? And yeah,
Yep.
I love that, Ariana, because the framework that I use as a coach for practice owners is, I call it the seven. What do I call it? The seven pillars of an ideal practice. My brain is tired today. Seven pillars of an ideal practice, and part of my whole point is that there's no one thing that's going to work. You really kind of have to watch all of it, because you really do have to kind of watch all of it. Huh?
Yeah.
And I can totally see where this is going to go. So you want to help them bring that vision to fruition. And you're aware that if they're not kind of watching the whole thing, something's going to fall apart or something's not going to quite work, right? Yeah. So let's start with this. You talk about optimizing, which is an interesting word, organizing and automating your back office.
Yep.
So when you said something a minute ago that when people are so focused, we're going to do that down the line, down the line, down the line. Yeah. What are some of the more common mistakes and struggles that you see healers have? If they even think of the concept of a back office, I'm thinking,
Mhm.
like, I don't care about that stuff. That's administrative crap. I'll deal with that later. Who cares about that? What are some of the things you see people doing? What are some of the mistakes you see people making, or just challenges?
Yeah. So it's really a lot about, to your point, like they are so focused on the work they want to do that
Yeah,
they're just like they're in that work and that's what they are meant to be doing. But if
yeah,
they don't have anyone else or systems or anything supporting them, then things fall through the cracks. So something that I've seen with a client that I worked with, she was like, I have all these leads come in, but I am just so panicked about how I'm
mm,
even going to onboard folks that I'm just ignoring all these leads. So like I'm just doing the day-to-day stuff. I'm just working on my clients that I currently have. And like I can't touch that. Like I'm just so freaked out about it.
wow,
And so it's all of these pieces of if there was a system in place, which we put a system in place, and she was like, oh my God, everything's easy now. Like it feels good. But if there's no
yeah,
system in place, then things live in your brain, and we're humans. We have a lot of things on our plate. Like, why are we going to make business more difficult than it needs to be? We can just kind of, find ways that work with us and with our systems to like nervous systems to be able to get that stuff from our brain onto paper or in
mm-hmm,
in a way that is easy to repeat instead of
mm-hmm.
it being a thing you have to keep remembering.
That's a really good example. So she had new business coming in the door, potential clients coming in the door, but was so overwhelmed with what she had going on already that she couldn't even deal with it. So she was avoiding it, which y'all is like turning money away. That's what that is. It's like, no, I don't need clients. I don't need money. Forget it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's getting over the mental hurdle of you have to spend money to make money. And I know that's a piece that, again, systems and back office and all that stuff just feels like it's like, I'll do that at a different point. But if you do that before you need to do it, before you're at the point where my client was, where she had these leads coming in, couldn't handle them, then you don't lose that money. You have something already in place when you have capacity, when you're not burnt out, when you're not stressed, to be able to handle that stuff for when you are busy and when you are booked out.
So let's define this problem a little bit better. I want people to, because folks may not even recognize it in themselves or in their practice. In my experience, people are so in the weeds that they don't come up long enough to look around and even realize that things could be a little bit better. So missing leads, that makes me think about how many therapists, and not just therapists, this happens to all different areas, all different types of healing arts industries. But therapists in particular, especially since the pandemic, have been so overwhelmed with the need, just the sheer need that's out there, that people don't return calls. They don't address client requests at all. They don't say they're not taking new clients. They just don't return the calls. And this isn't, to some extent, I've seen this for a long time. This isn't necessarily new, but it got worse during the pandemic. Where I'll have a client call me, a potential counseling client, and they'll say, I've called 10 people. You're the first one that's called me back. 20 people. You're the first one that's called me back. So that's another version of turning down leads, right? Or missing opportunities thing. What are some examples of the mess, that nobody even wants to acknowledge that they've got? Because you're seeing it. I know you are.
Yeah. So my top 3 systems that I encourage all folks to have in their business, doesn't matter where you are in business. One of them is the leads. So tracking leads, it could be as simple as an Excel spreadsheet. Just, what's coming in, where's it coming from? Did someone refer them? Like where are things coming back from? And so to your point, like taking the messages from your phone, putting them into this spreadsheet to be like, did I follow up with them? Did they book a thing? Like, are they a client now? Can I move them to a different tab? So lead tracking is a huge one to start off with. Another one is, how do you onboard people? So that was the other thing that my client was struggling with, because she's like, I have these leads, don't know what to do with them. If they become clients, don't know what to do with them. Like, it's just too much that I have to recreate the wheel every single time. And so for her, I was like, we can template an email with, this is the intake form. This is what to expect from me. These are my hours. This is, a guide to how to work with me. Here's my website. Here's how you schedule stuff. Like, it's a templated email that has all the things you need or the client needs. And you can just send it off right away. And the other thing you can do is just have a check sheet for yourself of, did I send the email? Yep. Did I include the link, the, forms or whatever? But those are systems. People are like, oh, that's just a check sheet. Nope. It's a system too, because it's out of your brain. It's on paper. And the other thing that I see is that there's no dedicated CEO or business owner, business management time per week. And so being able to sit down and be like, okay, I have a half hour. Like, that's where you could do your lead follow-up. That's where you could do your, how am I going to market next week? Or how did I show up this week that, worked really well for my clients? Or what do I need to do differently for my mental health next week? So having dedicated time every week where you're checking, am I getting my projects done? Am I doing the things that I promised myself I'm going to do? Those kinds of things, those are all systems, and they're all very easy to customize based off of how you work.
Okay, guys. So she just threw a lot at you. So I don't want you to get overwhelmed by this. Okay. We're going to dig into this a little bit at a time. We're going to go slow, and we're going to talk this through. Okay. Because, one of the things that I think I shared this with you, Ariana, and you know this, like so many folks who are drawn to this work tend to be creative, intuitive people who are used to feeling their way through something, even if they're following a particular strategy or modality of whatever they're doing. They are super intuitive and super sort of heart-centered, so they feel their way through things. And the concept of systems at all For one thing, makes people roll their eyes. You don't understand, Wendy. I'm not like that. I don't really care about all that kind of stuff. That feels constrictive to me. Why is it worth their time, first of all, to even think about the possibility of adding a system or two into their business? If you're a creative
Yeah.
type, why do you need this?
Yeah. So I want to demystify the word systems,
Okay.
because systems sounds like it's this like color coded 10-step automated process where it's like all these things that are like, if I touch it, if I look at it wrong, it's going to break. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm up a creek without a paddle. And that's not what it is. So when I was, giving all the information, I was trying to showcase that like it can be an Excel spreadsheet, it can be a checklist. Like it doesn't have to be a big thing that is a robotic piece. Because what
It
I
can be
often hear
simple.
from,
Yeah.
yeah, what I
Yeah.
often hear from my clients too is that like they're like, but they come to me because it's me. Like I'm a human behind the business. And I
Yeah.
say, yes, you never want it to be something that you're not, or be too, up in the clouds, be too robotic. And
Mm-hmm.
also, there are so many things you can do that give you a framework so that you're not sitting down being like, okay, now what do I have to send to this client? You say,
Yeah.
I have an email I get to just customize.
Do you think not having healthy systems in place could impact the quality of the business, the success of the business, the quality of their work with a client? Do you think that makes a difference? Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
So
How?
what
Yeah.
Yeah, what I would challenge everyone listening to sit back and think to themselves, how many hours a week do I spend on the boring admin stuff? How many of those hours can you spend with your family, or with, doing a hobby, or doing more stuff with your clients? That's kind of like straight off the bat, like how much time are you sinking into these things you don't actually want to be part of?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, and I saw this directly with my client and a few other clients that I've worked with, when you are so worried about, oh no, did I send an email? Oh no, did I reach it back out to that lead? You have a really hard time being present with your clients, because your brain
Yeah.
keeps going, I didn't do something else. Like, and then the narratives come in. Then you're like, I'm a bad business owner. I'm a this, like,
Yeah.
all of those
Yeah.
energies and emotions and feelings
Yeah.
come into how you show up with your clients. And none of that benefits them or yourself or your business as a whole.
So y'all just picture what that's like. So you're sitting in a session with somebody, and while you're in session with them, you're thinking, did I process that payment from last time they were here? Do they still owe me money? Did I file that claim that bounced back? I had somebody that called me yesterday for a new client. Did I return that call? I don't remember. Right. I told that client I was going to get this resource for them. Did I do that? I don't remember. That is true. So you end up not being as present because you're trying to hold all this in your brain. It also strikes me that if you're starting from scratch over and over and over and over again, how exhausting that is, and what an incredible energy drain that is when you can make some of that stuff kind of simple and quite a bit easier, so you can spend your precious energy on things that matter more. Yeah. The side of this that I think people miss, I wanted to ask about how it impacts clients, because I think that is important.
Mm.
We are so client centered. We are so focused on making sure that we are there for them, that I think sometimes we do things thinking it's helping them, but it really just makes things harder. So
Mm.
if you're making it up as you go, if you're customizing every single thing, you are going to miss a few things. You're going to drop a few balls, and things take longer. The process just takes longer. And ultimately that can be super frustrating for your clients, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've seen that a smooth onboarding client process
Yes.
is so drastic, like the energy is so drastically different than a chaotic one. Because like think about it, if you're investing money and time and energy and belief into someone saying they're going to help me, they're going
Yeah.
to, help me with all these things that I'm struggling with, and then you don't get stuff you need, you're not getting communicated with, like that's going to start eroding trust. That's also
Yep.
going to be like, oh, I have all these problems, but they clearly have all these problems too, because like, they're
Yes.
they're not showing up
They're
for
a
me in a
mess.
way. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
truthfully. and
Right.
and
It's
it's
true.
it's something that will eventually turn leads away, because
Mm-hmm.
they're like, oh, I don't trust this person anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When like
Mm-hmm.
the alternative can be so streamlined and so simple. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be 12 steps. It can be one
Yeah.
step. that you put everything into. So it's a thing to keep in mind of, it's not just the thing that business coaches say that you have to have because it's the way everyone does it. It's genuinely so needed for your client relations and for just keeping everyone sane in the process.
Yeah, keeping everyone sane in the process and protecting your energy. I think protecting your energy, not letting things fall through the cracks, and as you've already shown, protecting your income, because you will lose money, honestly, if you're not paying attention, which 100%. I was the poster child of that for many years. I want these three examples you've given us, or these three areas of focus, are perfect, and I want to dive into them in particular. But I want to make one more point about this before we do that, which is something that I think you said to me, that getting a system in place early on, even when your practice is tiny. I think you were the one that said this to me, Ariana, when we talked before, that if you can get this stuff figured out when your practice is small, that's going to help you when your practice grows. So if you implement a system that is scalable on the front end, then when you are busier, or when you end up taking on another colleague or two as an employee or as a 1099, depending upon where you go with your practice, if you get it figured out when you're small, it's going to help you a lot when your practice is growing. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about these three areas. So you said lead tracking your leads is one of the things that you feel like is most important and one of the areas that people miss the most. I love this, and I also think this is very important, and I have some thoughts about it myself. Teach us, what is a lead? What is a lead? What does it mean to track it? Why should we care? And what are some different ways you could do this that would be easy?
Yeah. So lead tracking is anyone coming into the business that has questions, they're intrigued, they were referred by somebody. It's anyone new coming into the business. And they can be coming in through your form on your website, through an email, through social media, if you're on social media, through phone calls, any of those ways. And so the thing I would offer at the beginning is find the way that people most often come to you and systematize that first.
Okay.
So you don't have to do all the ways right at the beginning, because sometimes that can be overwhelming if you have multiple streams of people coming in everywhere. Start with the first place. So if it's, via, you have your profile up on a website and you get calls from that or whatever.
Psychology Today. Today. Okay.
Yep. Exactly. Okay. So what happens? So in the morning, you start off your day, you check your email, you check your voicemail, and you have this very basic Excel spreadsheet, or you have a notebook that you say, this is my leads notebook. This is my leads Excel sheet. So you take down the information from them on the message, and you say, when am I going to follow up with them? And then on that day, you check off, I followed up with them. Like, this is what happened. This is where we kind of left things. Set reminders in your calendar so that you don't forget, or, work with yourself. And how do you best work? If you are very anti-technology, you like paper and pen, get a planner for your desk and write down, I'm following up with, Jane Doe today, and I'm going to follow up with her again next week, or something like that. So,
okay. So there were lots of steps in that I'm going to interrupt because I want to highlight stuff and make sure people catch stuff as you share it, because this is really good and juicy. I want to make sure people hear it. So the first thing you said was, in the morning, you open up, you said your voicemail, it could be your email, wherever your messages tend to come from. And the very first thing you do is capture that information somewhere. Capture it. Who called? When did they call or write? What are they looking for? Where do they come from? Like, capture all the relevant information of that. And you said, if you're a tech person, you want to do it on a spreadsheet, you can do it on a Google sheet, you can do it on whatever. If you're an analog person, keep it in a notebook, that's fine, but capture it first thing. And then you said, make a note of when you're going to respond to that. So that's a calendar item. So I take down these notes every morning, but I return all of my calls between 1 and 2 on each day, or between 4 and 5 each day, or whatever. Or 2 hours on Wednesday and 2 hours on Friday is when I'll follow up. So you put that on your, right? Like, this is what you said. You said, put it in your calendar.
100%.
Right? And in that place where you captured that original information, is that where you would keep notes about what happened or follow up and that kind of, would you do it all in the same place or somewhere else?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Keep it all together so that you always know exactly where everything has landed.
Yep. Yep. I love it. I love
Yep.
it. Okay. And what else about that? Because like what else do we need to know about? So, oh, wait a minute. Sorry, y'all. My brain is going faster than my tongue.
Uh-huh.
The other thing you said is defining what a lead is. I think this was kind of an important point that we don't always realize. A lead is not just someone who is calling you for an appointment. It is anyone who has heard your name, checked out your website, is curious about you in some way, is watching you, and is ready to interact with you in some way, right? So they may not be a client at all yet. They may be way before that, but they are tracking you or they're paying attention to you. They're interested in you. This is the very beginning of a client journey. This is important. That's what a lead is. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And obviously leads can be from cold to hot. So they can be anywhere on that spectrum of, like you said, they just found me and they're kind of, they're dipping their toe into the water, but then you know kind of who they are and you can kind of nurture them in whatever your marketing process looks like for that. And until they, want to become a client. So being able to kind of see where people are coming from, what kinds of things they're looking for, what drew them to you, all that is going to inform how you continue to show up in your marketing to grow your business.
Right.
But you don't know that if you don't track it, if you don't kind of have that overview of what's happening.
What's your favorite way of tracking phone calls and emails from potential clients? What's your favorite way of tracking it and keeping up with it?
Yeah, I'm a spreadsheet person. I love a spreadsheet. Oh my gosh, I love a spreadsheet. And for me, that feels so good because it's like it's all kind of streamlined. And then, I can make it more complicated by saying like, okay, this is, a link to their actual notes doc that I have in my system or whatever, or this, I think this free resource, I'm going to keep this in mind for when I create a resource around this item because they're curious about this kind of thing that we've talked about or whatever the case is. But being able to kind of track people in that way of, it's very personal. You can have a template for your, email or for your, how you talk to people when you call them or for the DMs or whatever, which templates I think are great because they all can be customized. It just gives you the boilerplate of like what you're trying to talk about, what you're trying to get across to them. And then everything can be customized to the actual person in front of you.
Yeah. So that's kind of a little side note there. That's a very good point. So for those of you who feel like having a system is forcing you into some kind of a box, a template can literally be, let's say you have an email, somebody reaches out to you through Psych Today. Are you taking new people? Do you take my insurance? Do you work with couples? And do you have a 5:00 during the week that maybe we can make? And you have a response to that. Yes, I do. No, I don't. But here's how I do work. Here's what I could do instead. I could also refer you to something like whatever. You write them an email back. I find it is much easier to create when it's real to a real person. So I might write that email for real the first couple of times. But then if I kind of like it, I copy and save that email into something else as a template. And then the next time I get that same request, I go into wherever I've got that stored, and there's lots of ways to do that. I copy it, stick it back in the email, and I change the name at the top. I change the first sentence or two. I may tweak it to fit, but I didn't have to write the whole thing all over again. Like that's a simple template. Yeah.
Yeah. And you think about it, that saved you 10 minutes, but it saved you 10 minutes over how many clients that come in.
Right.
Right.
And then when you're getting tons of referrals, it's much easier to respond more quickly. Do you have I have a couple of ideas for how to use spreadsheets for this kind of stuff too, and a phone log, but I don't want to say that until I hear from you first. Do you have a particular way of keeping up with phone calls or emails? I guess the spreadsheet's it, right? Yeah.
Yep. The spreadsheet is it for me.
Yeah.
That's just my preferred method currently, but there are so many ways that you can do it. So what are your ways?
Well, so let me build on that. So I am, it always cracks me up when someone says, I'm a spreadsheet person. I love spreadsheets. I want to say, what's wrong with you? Except I like spreadsheets too. It's a table. It's just a stack, a bunch of boxes. I have never been any good at figuring out formulas, Excel spreadsheet formulas, and how I cannot do that. I can't do the automation. But one of the things that I did for literally decades. That was extremely helpful when I had a full-blown private practice, when I was seeing 25, 28 people a week. And I had a spreadsheet where I had each column, I had certain, like I had their name, their address, their phone number, their email address. I had a checkbox. Was it okay to email them or not? Because that was something I put on their forms. Was it okay to send them something digitally? And then I had the basic problem that they were coming to me for. Teenager, addiction, depression, whatever, just so I could sort of see what kind of things people were coming from, and their referral source, where they came from, and also their birthday, which made it easy when I wanted to send out birthday cards, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So what was cool about this was over time, I could see how many referrals I was getting in a period of time. And so then I started, for each month, I would make those series of boxes a different color, right? Mm-hmm. Or I'd put like one row across was a different color to separate it out. So I could look back over the course of a year and see, I got this many referrals in January, that many in February, that many in March. And over time, what that did was it helped me not worry when things slowed down. Because I could go back and go, oh, look, last July was the same way. And the July before that, it's always like this. Mm-hmm. Or I could look at my year to date, how many referrals I had for the whole year compared to where I had last year. And I could easily and quickly see, oh, I'm right on board with where I usually am, or I'm a little ahead, or I'm behind. If I'm behind, I need to do something about it. But just tracking where your clients come from, how many, when they come in, just tracking your referrals. You'll feel so much better. So this is I'm glad you mentioned spreadsheets. So I think that's really helpful. And phone logs, I kept a running, basically a Word doc, where I would write down the date and the time they called, the name. I would almost write down verbatim what their message was. And then I would put the date and time I returned the call and what I said and where we left it and whatever. And that would be a complete entry for that person. And if it was one color, it meant I hadn't dealt with it yet. If it was blue, I hadn't even touched it. If it was red, I was working on it, but it wasn't finished, or there was still something left for me to do there. If it was black, it was done and I didn't need to do anything else. So I could look at my call log literally for days, weeks, or months and go, oops, there's one I missed. I never did finish that one. I need to go back to it. So just a couple of examples of sort of simple little examples of how you can use something as simple as a Word doc or a spreadsheet to track how your business is going and how you're staying in touch with people.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I love the color coding aspect of that also, because it's so helpful. Like you said, it's an overview where you can quickly scroll, be like, okay, black, black, blue. Oh, there's a red. I need to touch those.
Right. There was one I wasn't finished with.
Amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. That's so good. Yeah.
And it really did work, because people would call me and say, you don't remember, but I talked to you a year ago and you sent me off to so-and-so and I went and it was fine, but I really want to come to see you. And I could find them and go back and see exactly what I told them before and what our conversation had been, because I had such good notes about it.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
And that wasn't fancy. I wasn't using some fancy software. It was a Word doc. So.
And that's the thing that I really want to hammer home for folks on this segment, is that like, it does not need to be fancy. It just needs to work for you. So however you need to see the information is perfect and fine. It just needs to be seen in some way.
Just for the heck of it, what is a more advanced version of this? Once they've been in practice for a while and they've kind of got their feet under them and they're learning some things, what would this look like for a more mature business?
Yeah.
We're talking about CRMs.
Yeah. I personally am a huge fan of Asana. For like, I think for me, I think that's kind of the middle ground between a full client relationship management tool and a spreadsheet. So Asana, you can have a whole board of clients. And so you have one column for leads, one column for current clients, one column for past clients. Additionally, you could have like, I can nerd out about this for hours. You could have it by any kind of markers that you want to track people by. Yep. But what I love about that is that each card is going to be an individual person. So all of your links to their notes or, their information, their birthdays, all that stuff can kind of live in that card. And it's very easy. You're like, okay, Jane Doe, I'm going to look at her stuff. It's all right here in one place.
Yeah. So Asana, y'all, is sort of, it's like a project management tool. Would you say that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that is more advanced. So there are several of those out there. They're all similar. There are minor differences between them, as a lot of it is just kind of how it feels for you. But Asana is a common one. Monday is another one.
Mm-hmm.
Trello is another one. I use one called ClickUp. And there are a bunch more out there. Those do tend to be a little bit more advanced. The learning curve is a little steeper. But if you have a thriving practice, it may be time for you to learn how to use something like that. Now, project management is different from a customer relationship manager, which is something like ActiveCampaign, where you can send out an email to everybody that you've ever worked with, telling them that you've got openings or announcing that you're going to do a workshop at Christmas or whatever. You know, it's another thing. Okay. I don't want to get too far into that, but my point here is that there is a continuum here of simple to complex. Depending upon where you are in your business journey, different things may make more sense for you at different points. You do not have to have all the bells and whistles, but do have something. It'll help you. Okay, good. All right. So leads is where your clients start. And somewhere along the way, you've connected with them. You've had a conversation. They're like, I think I kind of want to come try this. So what do we do? Okay. You got my attention. I'm ready to hire you. What do I do? Talk to me about onboarding.
Yeah. So like I said before, a not smooth customer journey, not smooth onboarding is going to, at some level, erode some kind of trust because they're not going to feel supported and taken care of. And so whether it's, again, I keep harping on templates, but it just feels like it's the easiest, most low hanging fruit you can have a template of the email that you send to everybody. And so to your point from before, you might want to write that the first few times because you're trying to get the wording right, or you're trying to make sure you don't forget anything and all that stuff. But once you have a draft that you like, keep that, have that in its own separate, wherever you want to store it, and include things like the contract, the first invoice, the agreement, the terms of working together, any kind of intake paperwork you're going to need from them. You know, you can have that all very intuitively formatted throughout the email, but it gives people okay, I know exactly what to expect from this person. I trust them. Like, I have all this information. I know exactly how to contact them, what the expectations are. Like, it's all here. And so having that as a template is great. If people are like, I can't do a template, that just is too much for me. Okay, great. Start with the checkoff list. Start with what do you do every single time you onboard a new client?
Right.
Because it's going to be very similar, if not the same, for every single client. It could be different links if you have specific, whatevers, but it's going to be the same items and deliverables for each client.
In the private practice world, in mental health at least, a lot of folks will use an electronic health records tool like Simple Practice or Therapy Notes. And a lot of those have built-in onboarding help, patient portals and paperwork and that kind of stuff. I have never used any of those, y'all, full disclosure, because I'm old and I developed my practice way before any of that stuff existed. So I've always kind of done it my own way. But the principles are the same. The point is that it will make it easier on your client if this stuff is systematized in some way. So getting your paperwork figured out, what your welcome email is. And I would say you cannot give your clients too much information. The more you tell them, the better. And they will miss half of it. So tell it to them in more than one way. Or more than one time. You're nodding your head. Yeah? Yeah? You see this
all the time?
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So like one of the things that cracks me up, as I was easing out of the pandemic and back into seeing people in person again, I was fully online for a couple of years. And then I went back into seeing people in person, and I created an email. It's an autoresponder. So y'all, I'm a big fan of online scheduling. It drives me crazy when I have to contact a professional and figure out one appointment at a time for something. It absolutely drives me nuts. So I have an online scheduling tool. I use Acuity Scheduling. That's mine. There's bunches of them out there. That's just the one I happen to like. Inside that tool, I write an autoresponder. So every time someone schedules an appointment, they get an email that has, if we're meeting in person, this is where you come and what to do when you get there. If we're meeting online, here's the link that you will go and what to do when you get there. And it's very detailed, very specific, very easy to read, lots of bullet points and that kind of stuff. I still get people asking me, now, where do I go? What do I do? It's in the confirmation email that you got, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't tell people too much. You said something a minute ago about managing expectations, which is what made me think about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say a little bit more about that, about how to use your onboarding process, not just to make things easier for you, but to sort of set the tone for the relationship, and to sort of help clients understand how things are going to go? Can you speak to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of boundaries in business.
Amen,
And
sister.
a lot of folks I work with are so wonderful and so giving that they do not have any boundaries with their clients. And it's like, bless their hearts. I understand where they're coming from. They want to serve. I hear it in a few different ways of like, they want to serve, they want to be supportive of their clients and always be available. The other thing is they're terrified because they don't have a lead system. They're terrified that people are going to come and then, they're not going to respond fast enough and they're going to go find someone else.
Yeah.
Which again is why lead systems are important. But when you're starting a relationship with a new client, because I see this in my work, and I'm sure this happens even more in like a private practice, where if you break your boundaries or agree to something at the beginning, that becomes the expectation, that becomes the standard. So if you respond to emails at 10 p.m. because someone is in a crisis, or they just need you right then.
Or they want to change their appointment the next day at 10 o'clock at night. Right.
Right. They're always going to expect that. So what boundaries do you need in your practice to be able to show up as a whole human with energy and have, work-life balance and be able to show up well for your clients?
That's good.
And so that could be, to your point, not responding to emails after a certain point, having a time frame where like you'll receive a response from me Monday through Friday within 24 hours of your email, or I respond back to admin stuff 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Like how can people expect to be interacted with, so they know what to expect?
I love that. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. You are basically I've often said that the 5 most important words that you can say as a business owner is, this is how I work.
Yes.
This is how I work. So looking forward to meeting with you, client, just to give you share a little bit of information with you about what to expect. Here's what you're going to feel. Here's what you're going to find. Here's what it's going to be like when you get here. Here's how I will serve you. I'm available during these times and not during these times. When there's this kind of crisis, we'll handle it this way, whatever. These kinds of questions, if you have a tech question, we'll handle it this way, whatever. It's spelling out in advance. Here's how things happen here. Right.
Yeah.
At my old office, I had when I ran a group practice, I had a 3-story Victorian house that the whole house was our business. And we did not have a receptionist or any kind of admin help on site. So when I used to tell people this was part of my paperwork, I would say it in writing, and I would also say it on the phone. When you first come the first time and you walk in the door, it feels like you're walking into somebody's house, but I promise you're in the right place. Right. So just telling, because it was like, is this okay? Is this kind of weird? I'm walking. I would put that in the paperwork. Like, this is what to expect when you come. Have a seat here. Here's what we will do next. That kind of stuff. So something that simple. Yeah.
Yep.
So your onboarding process is how you get people in the door and welcome them and sort of set up the work. Here's where we're going to go, how we're going to go forward and what we're going to do and how things are going to work. That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's also, y'all, when you explain your policies, that kind of stuff, how you handle late cancellations or no-shows. It's how you explain your billing policies and what your expectations are around money. And in terms of your template idea, Ariana, you could also have for yourself a little checklist of things to make sure you go over with them in your first visit.
Yep.
Eventually it becomes,
100%.
You'll learn it after a while. It becomes like a little script that you go through. But in the beginning, if you're not sure, make yourself a checklist and have it on your lap. Let me make sure I talk to you all about this. Okay. Did I tell you this? Did I tell you this? Yeah. Something that simple. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Anything else about onboarding that's important?
I really like what you said about saying things multiple times and in different ways for folks, because I've had clients before who are like, I feel like I've been talking about this thing for ages, and all of a sudden someone new comes into my sphere and they're like, I've never heard you say this ever,
Right.
before. And so like everyone is going to hear it for the first time, no matter what. So
Yes.
being able to like be very clear about, what you do and do not accept and or expect from folks. And then also it's like, you've got to walk the walk. So you've told them, and people sometimes unintentionally break the boundaries because they're just doing what they normally do. And you have to really be firm and hold that boundary and,
Yeah.
gently remind them like, oh yeah, I actually don't take clients after 5 p.m. So let's schedule you before then, or whatever the case is.
Absolutely. Amen. Y'all, she's making a really good point here that we don't talk about nearly enough on this program, which is boundaries really do serve everybody. And walking your talk is one way you do that. It also sets a really good example for your clients, because if you honor your own boundaries, you are also teaching them how to honor theirs. So it's always a therapeutic issue. All of this is it's important in all those different ways. So that's really good. I like that. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. People get themselves into trouble, and you're right. If you start bending your own rules in the beginning, then you'll get in trouble faster. And I will tell you, I have certain basic principles I have always followed, and any time I go against my own rules, almost every single time, something will happen where I'll be, oh yeah, that's why I have that rule. Now I remember why I used to do it that way. I get reminded.
Yep.
Let's talk about the concept of CEO time. I like that a lot. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So I know a lot of folks didn't get into business to be a business owner. And also, you are the leader of your business. And if you are not making time to intentionally lead, your business is going to lead you. And that's not the business's job. So you being able to carve out time per week, per day, bi-weekly, whatever your schedule and your capacity allows for, to sit down and either journal or just, talk into a voice note or something of what needs my attention, what went well, what needs to be improved on, what do I feel behind or unclear on? Like, how can I show up better for my clients and for, my lead generation or any of those pieces? Like, what tasks are on your plate? Like, do you want to revamp your website? Has that been being put off for a long time? You're like, I'll get to it at some point. You have an hour a week. You can get to a little bit of it if that's what you want to do. So what is it that is going to support you, your clients, and your business, and put you in the leader seat instead of being in the, I'm just going to be in the passenger seat and just be pulled along by this business and see where we go.
Right. So what you're advocating for is some kind of a regular weekly ritual where you review your business as it stands, identify areas of that need improvement or areas of intention where you want to work on something to make something better, and then creating some kind of a plan to implement that in some way. But basically, it's creating a ritual space of some sort where you act like a CEO and look at your business from the top. Right? Am I getting that right?
100%.
Okay.
100%. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we can emphasize this enough how important that is. So when you said you didn't get into this to be a business owner, actually you did get into this to be a business owner, y'all. Otherwise, go get a job in an agency. Like, you are in private practice. This is a business.
That is true.
Yeah. And it is a different way of thinking, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
Are you speaking from experience? Is this something that you've had to learn yourself along the way? I'm thinking there's a story here.
100%. Oh my gosh. And I think it was interesting and unique for me because I started off as a virtual assistant. And so in that, the way it's even framed is that you're assisting someone else. And so it's so hard when I came from a very toxic, workplace culture of you just give everything. Like, I had a boss in my previous life who said, like, I skipped my own mom's funeral because the work comes first. And I'm like,
goodness.
So like coming from that mindset and trying to like come into, I'm still being a service provider. I'm still supporting other people in their journeys. But like, oh yeah, I am a business owner.
Yeah.
And I think because I started right around the COVID era and it was COVID, so no one was doing anything. So like, yeah, I could respond to messages at 10 p.m. because like, what else was I doing? Like, I was kind of home all day. And then when the world started to open up, I was like, oh, I've made some mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't treat this as a business. I treated this as I'm still serving other people. And I had someone ask me one time, like, oh, so like, what about your business is like unique and special? And I was like, oh, like I do X, Y, and Z for people. And they're like, no, 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 like your business. And I was like,
Huh.
interesting.
Huh.
Like, and I think I'm still on that journey for myself.
You're
So
still
like
figuring
I
that out.
empathize
Hmm.
and I understand like what people are coming from of like
Yeah.
your business as a business instead of how it serves other people.
Yeah.
Um, like there are two different things and it can be a little bit tricky, but kind of being able to consciously and intentionally lead your business and be the confident, face of it is so different energetically than just being like, I'm just here to serve other people.
I
Because then
love that.
when
Yeah.
you're doing that, then you break boundaries that you thought were important because you're like, oh, but if I'm here to serve them, their needs come first. And it's like, it
Nope.
has to be a
It has to
equal
be
playing
equal.
field.
Right. It has to be an
Yeah.
equal playing field. Exactly. It has to be an equal exchange of energy. Absolutely. This
Yeah.
is really good. And yay for you that you're figuring this out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that is actually a common misperception, I think, about hiring a virtual assistant or any kind of assistant, is not recognizing that they are business owners in their own right. And it's two businesses who'd agree to work together as collaborative partners.
Yeah.
It's very different from having a W-2 admin in your office, which is also worthy of deep respect. And there's lots of ways to handle that well too. But in all the coaching work I've been business coaching for I've been unofficially coaching other practice owners for probably 25 or 30 years at this point, honestly. But officially, I've been doing it for about 10 years at this point. And one of the things that I had not expected that has come out of a lot of the work I've done with folks is that they will tell me, I have learned to think like a business owner, and I don't think I did that before. I didn't know that that was important. And I think you are onto something here. So one of the most important so-called systems that you can implement to me is managing your calendar well. Your calendar is where a lot of your power lies, because if you're not careful at this, think about mistakes that people make. To me, one of the more common mistakes, there's two things in particular I see people do. One is that their pricing is all over the map. There's no structure or rules at all. Because they serve people out of guilt instead of out of intention or out of boundaries. So, this is what my rate is, but that's okay for you. I'll just do this. And next year I'm going to raise my rates, but not for you. And then somebody else is going to come in and for you, I'll do this. And after a while, you've got 10 different clients at 10 different pricing structures, which is the opposite of a system. So, and which is a huge energy drain, not to mention hard on your wallet. So that's one of the mistakes. But the other mistake I see is calendar. So I used to run a large group practice where I would have 10 or 12 providers at any given time. And I always had a few in that bunch who would see 10 and 12 people a day, back to back, hour to hour, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. and did not take a lunch hour because every dollar mattered and I can't say no to people and the demand is so great. So it was both out of this sort of servant mentality, which is honorable and kind, but a burnout servant isn't helping anybody. Or it was out of an abundance, a lack mentality. I need the money. I need the money. I need the money. What I hear you saying is, don't do that. And when you're planning your calendar, make sure you block off a certain amount of time every week where you sit down and think about your business as a business owner. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
Do you have a ritual that you follow? Do you have a practice that you follow?
Yeah, I had one.
Do you walk your talk?
I am doing the best I can to walk my talk. When I'm in Ireland, I do part-time farming with my fiance. And so I definitely know that there are areas of improvement that I need to do for myself. So this is not a
I
holier
got it all
than thou
figured out, right?
conversation. Yeah,
I
no,
got it.
absolutely not. I think
Yeah.
everyone is always in process with this. But what I do love to do is, well, I've started challenging myself to do more posting on LinkedIn. And so that's kind of, gone by the wayside a little bit as life has gotten crazy. But it was a really nice way for me to kind of sit down every week and kind of be like, okay, what is on my heart? Like, what do I want to talk about? Like, how do I want to share
Yeah.
with people? What am I hearing are themes that people are talking about that need to kind of be, demystified or, made simpler for people to actually see like what they need to do. So
Yeah.
this is a good reminder for me that that is an important thing that I want to get back to. So thank you for the gentle nudge, because it is important and I believe in it. It is hard when life feels like it gets in the way, and that's when you need to prioritize it even more. So I'm going to be doing that better going forward.
Well, there's a caveat here. First of all, planning a wedding and a move to another country is kind of a big deal. So, a little grace is a good thing right
Yeah.
here, and a little
Yeah.
self-compassion is fine. And what you just said is true. When life
Yeah.
is crazy is when your systems tend to fall apart, and
Yep.
it is when you need them the most.
Yeah.
So I am
100%.
also conscious of that. So
Yeah.
I've talked about this a fair amount on here, so I won't go into it, but I have a whole process for how I plan on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis. I have a whole structure for all of that,
I
and
love that.
and it's ebbed and flowed over the years. But in general, I do really do that. You can't see it, but I'm not going to move my camera, but I've got up on my whiteboard behind me, I've got Post-it notes that are showing the goals I have not yet accomplished this year. The whiteboard was full at the end of the year. It's about half full at this point. Like I've checked a bunch of stuff off, so we're making real
Amazing.
progress. But
That's great.
I start at the beginning of the year, and then I break it down by quarters, and then month, and then I have a weekly process where I sit down. The current system I'm using is the Full Focus Planner that Michael Hyatt has, but I've done it lots of different ways. The bottom line is I sit down sometime on Sunday or Monday, Sunday night, Monday morning. What happened last week? You said this. What worked well last week? What didn't work well? What's hanging over my head? What do I want to accomplish this week? If I do nothing, if I only get one thing done this week, what's the most important thing for me to get done? And if I can get 2 or 3 things done this week, what would that be? But at least one core thing. The one thing that's different that I'm doing now that I have not done before that I'll share if this is helpful is I tend to think of this as administrative. What phone calls did I not make? What bills did I not pay? What emails do I need to answer? That's administrative stuff. What has made a difference for me this year that's new, that actually I have learned from the Full Focus folks, is those bigger goals that I did at the beginning of the year. When I'm looking at my 2 or 3 big things I want to get this done this week, they need to tie into those big goals. They're not just administrative stuff. Like that's the stuff I got to do anyway. So, I mean, that's my ongoing to-do list. But I have something on my list every week that is tied to the big stuff that I said mattered this year.
Yes.
And that
I love
has
that.
really helped. That's really helped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I developed a quarterly planning guide where it kind of was similar to that, where it's like, the 3 big things I want to accomplish this quarter is, so, month 1, month 2, month 3.
Yep.
And then each of those, how can you break those down into smaller chunks? So
Yes.
if you're going to hire someone, like 10 things you need to do to hire someone, and then you could check those off week by week. And at the end of the month, you have this big task done. So yeah, I love that. I love that you can like break it down into smaller things to accomplish the larger goal, because it's so much more palatable to do that versus being like, I have this big project I need to do right this minute. Like
100%.
you can space it out a little bit. Yeah.
This is how you move forward. This is how you get momentum going. This is how you make progress. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And have you ever read, this is an old book, so you may not have you ever heard of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits for Highly Effective People? Do you know that book?
I've heard of it. I've never read it.
It's kind of an old classic from the, I don't know when, 80s, 90s, way back there. But it was the guru book for a long time that everybody was into. So the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of the things that he talked about in that book is he would do a 4-part quadrant where, and I can't remember how it was labeled, urgent and important, not urgent, not important. And I've forgotten how the quadrant works, but essentially he ends up like, what we tend to do is we focus on the things that are urgent, but not important. Those are the putting out fires things that we do all day long that are not moving the needle in some way. And he used to talk about what he called a quadrant 2 activity, which was important, but not urgent. Important, but not urgent. So you mentioned redoing your website. I had a whole bunch of family stuff that I knew was going to take up all of my energy for the first half of the year. The second half of this year, I want to redo one of my websites. And I am just beginning to start on that because we are just now in quarter 3, and that was my intention for quarter 3. So that is I could do it at any time, but if you keep putting it off because you're dealing with all the urgent stuff, you never get there. So what Ariana is saying is use your systems and this weekly CEO time. I love that CEO time to sit down and think, okay, am I on track? What do I need to do this week to move the needle a little bit on the stuff I said matters most to my business? That's good. That's really good.
Yeah. And a bonus here, because I think we were kind of talking about leading into this anyway. If you're a person who wants to hire at some point, start documenting the things that are burning you out or exhausting or draining your energy as you're doing them. So you're sitting there doing your admin stuff, you're responding to emails, you say like, I don't want to do this. And you can write that down on the list, because those are going to be the things that are the most important things for you to outsource when you are ready, when you're at capacity to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. At some point you need to hire help.
Yep.
And one of the, I think I told you this, that somebody I had interviewed way back who has a massive group practice with four sites across Florida, told me in her interview that even when it was just her seeing people in one little bitty office, she hired an admin to work 4 hours a week for her in the very beginning. And she said, because I knew then I needed to be able to scale, that someday I was going to want more. So I wanted to learn from the very beginning, which I thought was brave. I would not have done that. I wouldn't have felt like I had the money to do that. Can you talk to us, just give us a little bit about when you're ready to dip your toes into the water of hiring help? What do people need to think about? How do they even go about it? Where do they start?
Yeah. So again, I want to reiterate how important I believe it is to start before you're there. So I actually love that she started when she was just operating this very tiny practice, because what people don't always understand is that you bringing on help is not the automatic fix that you want it to be. You're at this place where you're about to just burn everything down. You're so stressed. You like need all the support. And you're like, I need to hire someone, which is, yes, you do. But they are going to need some time and capacity to be onboarded. And so they don't know where your processes live. They don't know what is happening behind the scenes or what your expectations are for stuff. So the pieces here that I want to touch on is that, like, there are some VAs that have been doing this for a long time that do not need as much, I say hand holding, but like they don't need as much guidance right at the beginning. And so if you are going to want someone who you don't need to train as much, there's still going to have to be a little bit of onboarding and stuff. But if you want someone that's not going to have to be so trainable, you need to be very particular about hiring an expert who's been doing it for a while.
And be ready to pay them. And be ready to pay them.
100%.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, this is kind of why I feel it's really important to start with these systems, is that the more you can have documented, the more you can have on paper, somewhere living, it can be chaotic. It can be, in 18 different folders, but if it lives somewhere outside of your head, it's going to be so much easier to delegate to somebody else.
Yeah.
So those are the two things I really want people to see, is that, right now, if you're still slow, like, things are still kind of, you're growing, you're kind of figuring things out, document as you go, because everything can be changed. Nothing is set in stone. Because when you get to that point where you're like, okay, like, I think I have a handle on this, like, we're still not like so busy, but we're getting there. We're picking up speed. I'm going to bring someone on now before it gets crazy. Because when you are at that place where you're ready to burn everything down, you're going to need to get someone, even more of an expert who can just be like, I got this.
Yeah.
I'll redo it all for you. Like, don't worry about it. But again, that's going to cost, more than if you can kind of preemptively start to plan for the inevitable growth, because you are going to grow.
You talk about hiring aligned help, how important that is. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah. Again, I really believe there are people for everybody. And so there are going to be people who hear your mission, hear what you want to do in the world, and they're going to be like, ooh, but they're like, okay, but this is money, I'm going to do it, but they're not going to do it well all the time, or they're not going to be as passionate and excited about it because it's not something that they're interested in. So you find someone who you can communicate well with, who you can grow in trust with, because trust is not overnight, but it can grow if you have the right person, and someone who really respects your mission and what you want to do in the world. Because if you can have someone like that who, it's not their expertise, they don't understand everything you're doing, but they're like, oh, I see where you're going. This is amazing. This is important and incredible. I'm going to do everything I can to help you get there. The impact is going to be so much bigger than if you just find someone off the street who or
Yep.
like, I need a job. I'll do it for
Yep.
$10. Like, it
Yep.
is what it is.
In other words, hire somebody who is as excited about what you're building as you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is really good
Yep.
advice.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. And I've done that a couple of times, and it is so much fun. It's so much fun when you get somebody on board who not only has the skill set and the personality that you need, but also is really excited about what you're building. My latest thing that I've gotten into, Ariana, is we have just started our first Airbnb. And yeah, which so is like a whole new business I'm learning about. I didn't know
Yeah.
nothing about it, and by golly, I'm learning, and it is so much fun. I can hardly stand it. And one of the first things I did was hire someone who could be kind of a guest contact, who could also help me with cleaning and prepping and that kind of stuff, but also could be kind of the hands-on person, so I don't have to do it
Mm-hmm.
because I'm setting this up right. And
Yes.
and she is a young mom, stay-at-home mom who has big ambitions of her own. She has a little one at home, so she's at that phase of life. But at some point, she wants to do something like this herself, and she is so excited about this little business that I'm starting, and that her enthusiasm alone sold her. But she also had a tremendous skill set that was fantastic. But I said something to her about, I said, enthusiasm is really catching. And the fact that you're as excited about this as I am, like, I could have hired people who brought a little bit more to the table, but her enthusiasm sold it. And she said, "Oh, honey, I'm your hype girl." And I got so tickled by that. I'm like, I've never had a hype girl. I don't even know what that means, but I like the sound of it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think that's so great.
I got so tickled. And I've got a team that helps me with the podcast, and she will hear me say this. One of her, in fact, you've met Shara, that has been my
Yeah.
folks who's been, right? She's a little bit like that. Like from the very beginning, she had the right skill set and personality with exactly what I needed. And I have a whole process I go through for how I handle hiring. But, of course I do, because I'm a systems person. But
Yep.
what sold me with her was she was excited about what we want to do with Ideal Practice, who we talked
Yeah.
to, the message we want to share here. She was like, "I love this. I'm learning from it too." And
Yeah.
that mattered to me. So that's aligned help. I have not thought of it that way, but that's really brilliant. I love that you're teaching that. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, like there are people that can do the job.
Yeah.
And this is what I tell people, about if they're like, oh, no one's hiring me and no one's coming to me. It's like, but you're going to find the people that want you for you, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that can do the work, but who are you going to
Right.
vibe with the most?
Right.
It's really important.
Who buy into the vision. That's really good.
Yeah,
I love that.
absolutely.
I love that. You need a hype
Yeah.
girl, y'all.
Yeah, absolutely.
That feels vaguely sexist for me to say that, but it was really funny when she said it.
That's very sweet.
Yeah, it really was. It just tickled me no end.
Yeah.
So, Ariana, this has been awesome. Thank you for this.
Yeah.
You have all kinds of little bits of wisdom that you've been dropping throughout this whole thing, and you're 6 years feels like a long time, but in my mind, you're still new at this business world, and you are already figuring out a lot of stuff. And it's going to be fun to see where you go with it over time, because if you've already figured out this much, it's just going to get better and better.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm
yeah.
excited for what's to come. I think it's going to be exciting. It's going to be new.
And you can do this from Ireland. You can do this from anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your
exactly.
clients could come
100%.
visit you in Ireland and call it a business trip.
Oh my gosh, we could have a retreat. That'd be amazing.
There you go. Look where we're going.
I know. I love that.
I love it. Well, so tell people where they can learn more about you. And if you have a little gift, I think you want to share with them. I'm hoping. I think you do.
Yes,
you want to talk to them about that? Let's do that.
Yeah. So my website and my business is Inspired Virtual Collaborations.
Inspired Virtual Collaborations. Okay.
Yep. And so I have the top 3 systems you need to do in your business, even if you're not a systems person, mini guide. And so it talks about what we talked about today, about the CEO hour, the lead, and the onboarding, and gives you very I really want it to be a thing that someone who doesn't want to do anything can just really be like, okay, this is easy. I can do this right now.
Yeah.
So that you can find that on my website at inspiredvirtualcollaborations.com/systems-mini-guide. And I think Wendy said she's going to put this in the show notes so it's easy for people to click and see.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also on LinkedIn, and that is the place where I am the most engaged. And that is not saying much because it's been a month since I posted, but there's a lot of stuff on. There's a lot of stuff on there that people can, tidbits and tips and things that people have been saying that they need support with. I have a lot of stuff on there, so I would love to, help people with that. And I also do little connection calls to kind of see, what the next aligned step needs to be in their business. So there's a link that's in the mini guide to schedule a free 30-minute chat with me. And I
Wow.
just want to help people have the business that's going to support their life and support the impact that they're meant to create in the world around them. So,
I love that.
yeah,
I
that's
love that.
me.
And we won't judge you if you're not posting right now, because did we mention
Yeah.
that you were getting married in September and moving to another country? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Yeah. Things are a
give
little
you a
bit
break.
busy.
A little busy. Good thing for a
Yeah.
systems person who's probably already got her bags
Yes.
packed. Right. There you go.
Nearly. Very close.
I bet.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So that guide will help walk them through these 3 areas we've talked about today. That's really good. I'm so glad
Yep.
and I think you've created that specifically because we were having this conversation today, which
Yep. It was
I
very
appreciate.
inspiring.
I
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely. No problem. Yeah. I hope that it's helpful for people to really see in black and white that like there are ways to move around these very scary sounding topics in a way that is it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be a step in the right direction. So just take one little micro step at a time, and all of a sudden you have more capacity because you're taking care of things that were taking up your time and energy before. And so like just see what new things you get to create now that you have more capacity, you have more time.
For
It's
real.
amazing. Yeah.
For real. I think the big takeaway today, y'all, is that even if everything in you resists this, taking the time to apply some kind of a small little systematic approach to one thing in your practice that's driving you kind of nuts, the one thing that's hanging over your head, the one thing that bothers you all the time, you're thinking about it even when you're trying not to think about it. If you could just pick one thing and develop some kind of a template, system, checklist, process that you can apply to that, you will instantly get a little bit of your life back. And I think you'll be amazed at what a difference that makes. Like, it really does matter. If this is not your instinctive and natural way of approaching things, then you may have some resistance to it. But listen to what Ariana is saying. Go get her guide. Pick one thing and just try it and see if you don't feel better. Because when you feel better, you're going to show up for your clients better. You're going to do better work, and you're going to make more money. So more good, more fun, more money. What's not to love? This has been awesome. Thank you so much for today, Ariana. I wish you the very best in this great big new chapter that you're about to move into. I'm excited for you. You're moving to one of my favorite places in the world. And it's just lovely. I'm sure this is a big transition. There'll be a lot to adapt to. But, those pubs are right around the corner, and that's going to help with everything. So there you go.
Literally around the corner. It's
everywhere.
It's perfect. I can walk there. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you so much, Wendy. This was so good. And I really appreciate the conversation. It was so much fun.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. I hope you got some really good takeaways. I hope you're not overwhelmed, but are instead inspired to take action, because that's what's going to make the difference for you in your practice. And that's my goal for you. Have a great week, everybody. And I will see you next week right here, same place, Ideal Practice Podcast. Bye now. Hey, y'all. If this program has become important to you, if Ideal Practice matters, it would mean so much to me if you'd be willing to take just a minute to do one or two of the following things. First of all, would you follow or subscribe to the show here at Ideal Practice? Following me helps you because you'll never miss an episode, but it helps me as well for all kinds of reasons. To do that, all you have to do is go to the show page for Ideal Practice on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. There, just click on the plus sign that you'll usually find in the top right-hand corner, or click on the word follow that you're going to find somewhere there on that page. Of all the things, this really is the most important thing you can do for the podcast itself. While you're there, it would be extra special if you would be willing to give me a 5-star rating, and even better than that, a review with your own words. Your words matter. And when you write what you feel, what you think, you uplift and encourage others. And I love that. If you want to go a step further than that, take your favorite episode or two, one of the ones that has meant a lot to you, and share it with a friend. Could you do one or two of those things for me? I promise I will love you forever. You guys matter to me, and I value your support more than I can possibly say. Thank you, sweet friend, for anything you can do to help me out and support the show. I'll see you again soon.